Hello guys, in another episode of Omnipotent Growth with Kal. Today our topic is living remotely, challenges of working remotely for managers and leaders. Our guest today is Mr. Hristo Mishev, and it's a great pleasure to represent him in the start of our episode as he's our colleague from the Executive MBA program. So he has decades of experience as a professional. He started in a support business his career, but then he moved to quality assurance and then operations management. He had big projects with Microsoft, Netgear, and also Cisco, managed teams anywhere from 50 to 500 people. Lately, he's a director in one very big firm doing BPO. He has a lot of great responsibilities that we are going to hear about today. So, Hristo, welcome. Did we miss something in our introduction?
Thank you, guys. No, actually, you didn't. First of all, thank you for inviting me for this participation. From what you said, I kind of it made me think that normally things that we think of as a short-term and turn to be a long-term ones. Why I'm saying that? Because when I started in this industry, I started pretty much on a kind of temporary basis. I just came back from studying abroad, and I met a colleague of mine in the university. I had to take some exams, but also was looking for a job. Nothing serious. And he was like, okay, there's this new company, they offer some great opportunities, why don't you come? Well, I came, I joined, and I started my journey from like an entry position to what you described. Why I'm saying this? Because currently we are in a situation where we all think of the COVID-19 situation as something temporary, but at the end of the day, we need to be mindful of the long-term effects that this situation has. I'm hoping, and I'm sure you're also hoping, that this would be a temporary thing and we will be able to get our proper graduation in a few months.
Yeah, in October.
As you know, it was postponed. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm hoping that the discussion that we'll have would give some insight to people as to how to cope with some of the challenges when it comes to addressing this situation from a management leadership standpoint. So thanks again for inviting me.
Yeah. To add to the introduction of Hristo, he's also passionate about music. He's a drummer in a rock band, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the episode. Hristo, I was impressed by your career path and growth. In our last talk with Thor, we discussed what are the required qualities when you climb the corporate ladder, starting from the bottom to the executive position, like more or less your path. What is your take on this question? What traits are required at the beginning of the career, and what else do you need to build to grow professionally?
Absolutely. I think your previous episode covered most of it, and I'm kind of in full agreement with what Toshko said. What I would add is that in general, you need a few core competencies that throughout your journey should be there, and those are related to your willingness to learn, willingness to develop, willingness maybe to develop others, and willingness to be able to receive feedback, because these are, I think, the four, let's say, core competencies. Because it's also very important, actually, that I'll introduce my concept of small goals, that you have realistic but small goals. What I mean is that you cannot become a great whatever leader in a day. You cannot become, you cannot be motivated if you fail to achieve your goals. So small goals, realistic ones, definitely have a plan, but also being able to deliver on this plan. Not only for you as a motivation, but also for your recognition within the organization, because it can compromise trust when it comes to you not being able to achieve your own goals, which is also important. Trust is also key, because you need to be trusted not only by, first of all, by yourself, but not only by your bosses, but also trusted by your peers, your direct reports. So trust is all the way mapped through your journey from entry to a higher position, so to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sure you will agree with that. What else? I mentioned feedback. Feedback, it's a gift to be able to provide feedback, and it's also very important to be able to receive feedback. Now we we work on jobs that we think we're doing a great job, or we don't think, or maybe we don't know we're not doing a great job. So basically, when it comes to feedback, you need to consider that everybody is entitled to receive their feedback. And we are more prone to provide positive feedback because realistically, when you provide negative feedback, you kind of challenge a little bit the status quo, and it's not as easy. But in reality, if you are able to provide negative feedback the right way, like on time, directly, without postponing or sugarcoating it to the extent that it loses its value, you achieve more, because at the end of the day we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. It's great to be successful. It gets you motivated, it pushes you through the, let's say, the steps or through the plan, but you learn more when it comes to receiving feedback. I've been fortunate enough to be working with people who challenged me in a way that they were able to always provide feedback when things could have been done differently, or when things literally were not done at all well, which is also really important.
Just made constructive, not like yelling or something like that.
Well, sometimes there's another thing, maybe we'll speak about this later, but it's really, when you care about the people, it's really difficult to keep your emotions at bay 100%. Sometimes you would yell, but done the right way, I guess it's even more. It's a wake-up call.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool. So the things that you said, I'm pretty sure that you experienced on your own, and my reflection on your words is connected to the feedback. As I said, I always support constructive feedback. And I really think that if you show that you're there for the person, you can say whatever is needed. Like if you are not the seagull type of way, like coming, shouting, and going away again, I think that you can achieve a lot with even negative feedback. And for the other thing, I really liked your idea of small tasks. Because when you get really focused on the big picture, sometimes it's overwhelming, and you're not willing to even start. You're not knowing where to start, and it's somewhat stressing.
Yes.
But when you do little bricks, brick by brick, and you build the whole. Great. So. Now let's turn to your experience and the topic today. We tend to be a bit like drained from the part that we have to do all day meetings. We have to do everything online. It's difficult to make restrictions. So what is your point of view on the topic? What is your experience, Romy?
Absolutely. Thanks, Kal, for the question. So we've been operating, let's say, remotely for a few months now, and it's good because now we can make a reflection of what was, or what has been actually the situation. So it's challenging, I would say. It's challenging because some type of businesses don't operate 100% remotely. Of course, in every business there's different positions that people have the self-discipline of working remotely or independently, but moving 100% of the organization remotely has its own, let's say, challenges. So basically what is happening is that for positions that you don't have the habit of working remotely, you lose a lot of the face-to-face communication, you lose a lot of being there, as you mentioned, because now you have to be somewhere else, which is everywhere in the virtual space, and mostly over the phone or when you have a conference call through video application. And the challenges are also related to the fact that things are not changing only for you, but the situation is also dynamic. So you have a situation where you're accustomed to one way of doing your business. You know that there are some exceptions. You know that, for example, there's some holidays with regards to a country or some specifics when it comes to local culture. But now local culture or the dynamics of the situation impact a lot your company culture. And this creates another situation where you need to be flexible, and it requires a lot of bold decisions, because being flexible, you also need to be able to change things. And in a situation like this, changing things requires some kind of determination. So my take is basically you need to be in a position where you find a balance point. You find a balance point because literally you work from home, which means that you don't leave your home. So you need to set some boundaries for yourself, in the sense that you need some kind of rules for yourself, which is ironic because we're talking about flexibility and now we're talking about rules. You need to be able to set up some rules for your team, some guidelines. Yeah. For example, response time to an email. There is no situation where you can just walk across your desk to your colleague and remind them of whatever needs to be done. Yeah. You need to be extremely careful with your communication. So you need to over-communicate rather than assume that that everyone understood what you meant. You have to be in a position where everybody is engaged. For example, in a team meeting, when you have in a room, you have visibility on how people react to what you say. Yeah. Over the phone, you will always have the quiet listener, which is not okay. Everybody needs to be asked for their opinion, even if their opinion is the same as their colleagues. But this puts them in a position that they're engaged. And also, it's also important to recognize the fact that in a dynamic situation, obtaining the consensus of everybody in the room is important to achieve whatever needs to be achieved. Because there are a lot of variables, and we need to be approaching variables in a way that there's consensus from your team. I think that's pretty much what is like the basic few things.
So it's a great point. I cannot stop myself from mentioning with extracting everything from the people in the call. My personal opinion, I noticed that the quiet people that are usually quiet in the common meeting room that we had beforehand, before this situation, are now even quieter. Like if you don't ask, if you don't approach or engage, you won't get, and maybe there is something very valuable there. Because some of those people that are introverts, this is one of our favorite topics, they tend to have key insights on topics. Yeah. So for me, it's crucial that you find a way to add all of the necessary, all of the great information that you have in this call, in this conference, and put it into the shared meaning pool. Like
Absolutely.
This is a term that comes from the book Crucial Conversations. Yeah. But this is the key way that's making the manager in a good decision position. Because if you don't have all the opinions, you're not informed correctly.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Great. So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah. By the way, just last night I read a very interesting article about the introverts in the current situation, where everything is on video conference calls, and one of the advices there was to include them, but not to speak in front of everyone else, even though they're home alone, but rather include them in a chat or something like this, where they can type they can write their opinion, and so that their opinion is also expressed. It's back to the topic. One of the challenges you mentioned in our preliminary talks was the challenge to train people online. Have you already found a satisfactory solution to this issue?
We hope so. It's not only training that had to be done online. Basically, like we mentioned, 100% switch from on-site to remote. And what's required from our end is basically to make the training fit the media, the channel. And channel is remote. So training needs to be really engaging. Like we mentioned, everybody needs to be engaged in training. Trainers need to be very mindful of the fact that it's very hard to create a sense of team when people are remote, because they're different people. Some are comfortable with the situation, some are quiet by nature and they become even more quiet, like we discussed. But the training needs to be in a position to engage, make the content lively. Trainees need to have the possibility to know the rules. Again, talking about rules, that they can interrupt at any time if something is not clear, that they can probably pose their questions on a shared point that the trainer would make sure they cover. There's no possibility to go on a coffee break and if you didn't get something, you ask your colleague what was that.
Exactly.
Because by the time you address a gap, the training probably would be over if you kind of leave it neglected. So these are some key things, but also it's really important that you take training in combination with other processes. You cannot simply think that you have accommodated the training to be done remotely, but you have not accommodated, for example, hiring. Hiring is key as training, or the onboarding, because this needs to be looked at as one big thing. Otherwise, you may be in a position that you think that you've accommodated one thing for the remote scenario, but the rest actually you created more confusion than solution.
You're missing out.
Exactly. So that's something that you need to be mindful of.
Yeah.
So I think it's working. So we managed to train quite a few people remotely, and the important thing is that for each class we were in a position to revise what went well, what could have been done differently, and most importantly we have taken steps to improve. So we improve.
Depending on the situation and on the type of business, I also have my personal experience with that, and we created an academy which was very carefully executed with mentors and with you have full body of lectures, but then you have mentors for the practical stuff that are a direct implementation of what you learn. And then the results were outstanding, actually. I guess people are feeling more, more secure and more motivated to try out new stuff when they're in their safe environment at home. Maybe. But they really try to do some very advanced stuff, which was a pleasant surprise for me.
Yeah,
okay, so now as we are the leadership podcast, our signature question, what is your recipe for leadership growth as an operations director?
It's a great question. The recipe is you need to be in a position to actually learn from what you do, to be mindful and self-aware of what you do. I already mentioned the fact that I've been fortunate enough to receive feedback from great people, but the thing that puts you through is what you do with this feedback. So basically you need to accept it, admit it, think of what to do, and just move forward. Otherwise there's no value in the feedback. And I also mentioned something that we discussed previously about the small goals. I just thought of a good quotation I really like, is that when you have a small goal plan, realistic goals, you may achieve more. There's this saying that small hinges may sway very big doors, which is a good illustration of
good metaphor.
Good metaphor how things are interrelated. What else? Very important is that not only receive the feedback, but also be able to, if you have any, let's say, fears, you need to be able to confront your fears. Postponing would not get you anywhere. Actually, you would only postpone the resolution. For example, we talked about negative feedback. People sometimes on a leadership role would refrain from providing negative feedback to their colleagues because they're not comfortable with it. But you need to do it because this will not help you and this will not help your
colleagues,
your team.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, if you postpone, you in a way postpone your growth, but you also postpone some kind of put hold on the growth of your team, and it makes no sense if you don't have a strong team to push you through by postponing. So that's, you need to be able to find a balance in this situation. So these are key, I think. Yes.
When you are talking about postponing, I'm always thinking about procrastination. If you know something is good for you but you're not doing it, and there is a very, I would say, cute book. It's called The 5-Second Rule.
Yeah.
And the book is the title. Right. So basically, if you want to do something that you really don't want to do, you have to do it in 5 seconds. You count from 5 to 1 and then you do it, like getting out of bed or starting something. Like you received some feedback and then you say, damn it, I want to do it, but I have so many stoppers in me that I'm always procrastinating it. Then just try it out, count from 5 to 1 and just start doing it. And then when this becomes a habit, before I had the kid, this was my way of getting up before 6 a.m. And it really works. So this is my take on procrastination, on the constructive feedback.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay. So now let's switch the conversation a bit to the funny part of it.
Okay.
In the beginning, I mentioned that you play the drums in a rock band. Could you please tell us a bit more about it? What is the feeling going out in front of a public, get them excited, making fun? Is there anything that you can take from the drums playing and transfer it to your leadership style?
Yeah, great question. Again, yes, there is. So I have a long story with playing drums. I started when I was like a teenager. So for the years we have been recording, doing some concerts, and it's a really great feeling to be in front of people playing your favorite music on your favorite instrument, but and of course people like what you do. But the thing is that in itself drums, probably like all instruments or all things that you need to be good at, require a lot of practice and a lot of patience. So drums may be even boring because you need to repeat one and the same thing 100,000 times. So what I'm trying to say is that by the time you are performing and you appreciate it on the stage, you have developed yourself and you have become a star for yourself rather than being the rock star for the audience, because all the practice, all the patience, all the persistence that it was required. So if you take this and you translate into leadership, these are qualities that are required in leadership. Persistence, patience, the small goals concept, as I mentioned. You cannot become a great drummer overnight. In the same way, you cannot become a great leader overnight. Yes.
Indeed, yeah.
So these are things that I think there is a relationship, at least to me, in this sense. Also, I'm joking with my bandmates that we as a band are as good as the drummer is. But at the same time, when you think about it, a team in general is as good as their leader is, or an organization is as great as their leadership is, which is, I guess, another analogy that we can make when we compare drumming or music to leadership. And there's one more thing. It's interesting to know that actually the drummer keeps the beat, and it's again numeric 4/4, 3/4, 7/8, whatever the beat. But at the same time, they are the pivot to make improvisation in a band, because you, on one hand, you keep the beat, so again some kind of rules, but at the same time you the person or the position that inspires improvisation, which again leadership us should be also an inspiration.
Great analogy.
Yeah. So these are a few things that I think overlap between drums and leadership.
Quite nice. And I'm with you 100% on the trying out day by day hard work and this persistency and the ability to embrace learning is what can move you in whatever direction. Anyway, this
absolutely
is the concept. Okay, Hristo. So we want to thank you a lot. It was a great pleasure and honor to have you on our show. For our listeners and for our viewers, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share the content, and see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, guys.